We are live. Can you hear me now, Gina?
I can, Becky.
Awesome. I think we got this, guys. Hopefully,
Great.
we still have you. Come on back on. I think that once everyone realizes that we're on and we've got you, then they'll be back. Hopefully, we'll talk through some of this. And anyway, so that's what happens with technical issues. Sometimes it's not always freaking perfect, is it?
No, it is not.
But anyway, so I'm not going to go ahead and trouble everyone with who I am and what I do, but I am going to talk a little bit about the Ev and I. Here we go. We've got a Facebook user coming up. What's up, ladies? I have no idea who you are, but you might want to tell me who you are. But here's the thing. So I have this amazing event that is coming up April 6th and 7th. And I am telling you, I have some of the top industry speakers in automotive talking about finance and insurance. And if you're not there, then you know what? You're a loser. No, I'm just kidding. But I do want you to be there because there's a lot of great. Hey, Jim Maxim's on. Do you know Jim?
I have spoken to Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim, it's good to see you. I'm so glad you said hello. We've had some technical difficulties. I bet Jim knows a little bit about technical difficulties. I bet he knows a lot about it. He is one freaking smart man, I'll tell you. He has amazing content and technology, right? With that digital menu of his. So thank you, Jim, for being on. But I just wanted to let y'all know about my upcoming Ev and I Master Series Forum. And it is going to be absolutely amazing, outstanding. And I've got some of the top industry speakers. I really do that are coming on. And there's Anthony Santangelo. He's like, yay, let's roll. So we've got him coming back. So Gina, it's all good. Yay.
Great.
I know if I talk long enough, they'd be back. You ever be if you ever talk long enough, somebody will get on the phone or
Yes.
that you want to speak to, and then all of a sudden they're free. And anyway, so it's going to be a great event coming up, and I hope that you guys decide to join us. And in fact, Gina will also be a panel speaker, and I'm really looking forward to having Gina present and really talking through what's going on in the auto industry. And believe me when I tell you, Gina, she certainly has the pulse on what's happening in finance and insurance. So anyway, so the event is April 6th and 7th. Definitely make it a point to sign up sooner. And with that, I'm done with my pitch and I'm going on to Gina.
Thank you.
Get the heat off of me onto you. Tell us everything that there is to know about Gina. I mean, to tell you, you have been in this industry for a very long time, and you really help dealers to have a better understanding, the F&I community, if you will, have a better understanding of what's going on.
Thank you. Here at Colonnade, yes, we've been working in the auto F&I industry. Gosh, I think since 2003. I joined Colonnade as its first employee back in 1999. And I was with Colonnade for about 4 years. During that time, we focused a lot on mergers and acquisitions, as we do now, but also focused more on technology companies. Over time, we have increased our focus to business services and financial services companies. Auto F&I falls right in the middle there. We work with F&I administrators, product administrators. We work with F&I. We work with F&I agents. We work with F&I payment plan providers. We work with direct-to-consumer marketers. We work with auto lenders. So we work with companies that are both balance sheet businesses and what we call asset-light businesses. And we've worked with companies all over the country and across the full spectrum of companies within auto F&I. So we get to see everything, which is kind of fun. I love what we do because we get to do these deep dives into companies and really get to know them and work with leaders who are best in class. And we get to look at their books. So not only their financial books, but all of the details. So we start seeing agents' names in administrator books. We start seeing dealership names. We see products, product pricing. So when we are brought into a situation and uh, we're marketing a company, we'll be asked, so what, how do the margins look for this company compared to other F&I companies you've seen? We can truthfully answer, yeah, we've seen a good spectrum of companies, and this is kind of where it falls and how it's positioned in the marketplace. So we've been doing this now since 1999, and over the past 6 years, we've done almost 20 deals in the auto F&I space. So we're advising companies either on selling themselves or on buying other companies.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your article, and I've got that right here.
Great.
And let me tell you something, girl. You
Mhm.
are one smart cookie. And
My
I
mom
don't
would
tell
be happy.
that to everyone. I don't. I really don't. But I've been watching you and I've been following, not watching you, but I've been following you and your content. And it's dead on. It just is dead on. You know your stuff. And so the thing is that you're talking about in this Agent Entrepreneur magazine, you published an article in 2022 about this mergers and acquisition predictions for F&I agents.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm jumping on it because I think that independent agents, not independent, but even smaller agencies for that
Mhm.
much matter, companies like myself who have provided finance and insurance training for dealers. I mean, that was big business for me,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And now it's like, okay, what these mergers and acquisitions are saying is that a lot of these other dealers no longer need my services or perhaps another insurance provider because now this dealership group is with a big another company, bigger
Right.
company. And so that takes away from obviously that business.
That's right. That's right. We've seen M&A in this industry being driven by two things. First of all, as dealerships consolidate, and auto dealerships, they've been consolidating at a rapid rate. The big keep getting bigger. The number of dealerships in the United States is shrinking again as sorry, the number of dealership groups is shrinking as the big keep getting bigger. And as a dealership acquires another dealership, that's the time where they look again at all their vendors and they say, okay, this F&I agency or this training firm that's here in this dealership, the target that we just acquired, does that make sense? Or should we be bringing them onto our agent and our products and our trainers? And so every time a dealership merger happens or acquisition happens, it opens up the opportunity basically for relationships to change. So the dealers that have larger footprints want to deal with agencies. Oftentimes, they want to deal with agencies or groups that have a larger footprint also. So that's
Mhm.
partially fueling some of the consolidation we're seeing. The rest we are seeing is because of private equity in the public markets. When a private equity firm makes an investment, they need to show 10 to 15% bottom line growth every year, year over year. That's hard to do. It's hard to do organically. It's hard to do by marketing a better product, getting more sales. It's easier to do what we call inorganically by making an acquisition. And so what we've seen are private equity firms coming in, acquiring administrators, and they're saying, okay, we just leveraged this company up, put on a ton of debt, paid you a lot of money. And by the way, you have an earnout. We need to see that 15% growth. How are you going to hit it? Are your people just going to be better? Or are you going to start acquiring agencies, locking in the distribution stream, and we will grow with the addition of that agency. So that's really fueling a lot of the M&A activity that we're seeing.
Well, there puts a lot of pressure, I would think, especially on independent agents or agencies to really step up to the plate and make sure that they're competitive and they really have the I mean, that they're providing dealers with relevant content that is taking place today. And you and I had this one conversation a little bit
Mhm.
earlier, and there's a lot of truth to it. I mean, we had fun with it. But you've got some dealers out there that are taking, not dealers, agents who are taking their dealers out. And for
Mhm.
the most part, they have this fantastic, fabulous relationship. They're playing golf, they're going to the club, they're having dinner, some cocktails and stuff like that. And then they really kind of call it a day.
Right, right.
And that works for me. I'm good. I'm happy. Let's go. Let's go. And now all of a sudden that whole thing has been, I mean, changed drastically overnight by agreeing to allow their store to be sold. Right.
That's
So
absolutely right. It's absolutely right. I can't imagine that a dealership group that's buying a store, and they go to that store and say, okay, so convince me that we should continue to use that F&I agent. And the guy's like, yeah, he belongs to this really good club and we have these great dinners. I mean, that doesn't work anymore. It's got to be a lot more value add.
and I think here's the thing. It's not because I want to hear it. I just understand it. For me, I don't think I've ever been that very lucky in that I could just stay consistent in my world for 20 years and get away with it.
Right.
And I just couldn't. I mean, I've just been in so many different situations where it's like, how do you do that? How do you
Neither
get
guy.
away with just
Neither guy.
being you? I don't get that.
I agree. I agree. I think my impression is that being an F&I agent or an F&I agency is a lot harder today than it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's more competitive. You have to be smarter about how you approach your market. You have to be better at building relationships. It's not just the relationships because you're the best friend, but you're delivering measurable value to the dealership. And it's crucial in this market. And so I think, things have changed for people in this industry, and it's got to be tough to keep up.
You know, have you ever heard of the analogy? And I've been hearing a lot about this analogy about the frog in the pot. And
No.
over time, this frog gets boiled and just gets hotter in the pot
Hmm.
and at first they really don't feel it. And I feel like for a lot of these guys, that's exactly what's going on here.
Hmm. I
They
think
may not necessarily feel it, the heat so much, but it's happening.
right.
And before their very eyes, in 2 years from now, if what we're experiencing now, more mergers and acquisitions in and in the history
Hmm.
ever, what
Right.
does that say in 2 years from now?
Right. Right.
How do you stay? How do you stay up with all that?
You know, one of the biggest, so 7 years ago, I would get asked questions about private equity guys of digital retailing is coming in the automotive world. What does that
That's
mean
another
for
one.
F&I products? And I was like, yeah, sit down, don't worry about it. It's not really going to upset the apple cart yet because everybody still needs F&I products. Now, we are at a time where digital retailing's here. It was accelerated by the pandemic. I mean, everything technological has been accelerated by the pandemic. And people still need F&I products, but they're getting used to buying cars differently. Now, why shouldn't they be buying their F&I products differently? And you will see the online digital retailers are going to sell more and more F&I products, but that's going to bleed over into the regular dealership world. So yeah, dealers list their vehicles already on their websites, and you can start the process. But I don't see agents or dealers marketing F&I products to the consumers in advance of the consumer walking into the dealership. We give people the ability to come in with an education about the car before they walk in the dealership. They come in and they say, I printed this off. This is all the specs. I know exactly what I want. Now I just need to test drive it. And then we put them in the F&I office We say, now let me tell you about this big financial decision you're going to make. I want you to spend an additional $4,000. I'm going to explain it to you in the next 45 minutes. It's a lot to take in. And so I think what is going to happen is we're going to see more of an evolution in how F&I products are sold. That can't all happen just in the office. It has to happen at the first conversation about the vehicle. It has to happen in the office. It has to happen after the person walks out of the dealership if they didn't buy a product. At any one of those points, the customer has to be reached. It can't just be in the dealership.
So, Gina, I don't know, and I got to, I want to go here, and we're going to talk about this, but I want to go ahead and call out Mike Fisher. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we've got it going because I got Gina. Anyway, so Gina is fantastic, and she is. And Mike Fisher, and he also says, "Great job, Becky, inviting her on your show." I'm telling you, I think I got this a little bit. So I'm really happy to bring Gina on the show, and it's great. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And then of course we have Ted Ings. I'm not sure if he's still around or not, but if you are, Ted, thank you for stopping in. Because let me tell you something, this lady here, you've got to have on Fixed Ops Roundtable. She is amazing, this one. I love her. I really do. I love her content. And so we have a Facebook user saying, "I like what I'm hearing." You might want to tell me who you are. Sometimes the names don't come. I don't forward with the Facebook so much. Hello from Arizona. Ted Ings is still here. Thank you, Ted. And he says, "Nice job." Yeah, there you go, Gina. Yeah. So I'm sure you're going to expect a call from Ted Ings. And then Joe Caruso, love him to death. Thank you, Joe. He is an awesome guy. I love Joe. If you don't know Joe, get to know Joe. He is from California, and he is amazing. So we have Christine Farnut. I'm back. Great show. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Bobby Bonser, do I have that right? That was a terrific perspective. Thank you. Okay, great. And then we got my buddy. He's a GM, Mike Thompson. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And then we have John Ward's here. He's a dear friend of mine for many years in automotive retail. So John Ward, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you still are. And then we have Mike. He's saying hi to Anthony Santangelo. Not sure if you're familiar with Anthony Tangelo, but he goes all over the country doing training. He does an amazing job with his sales training. So we were talking about, we were talking, where were we when what the heck?
We were talking about how the F&I office is in agents, and the F&I industry is in a state of flux, and how
Yes.
M&A is impacting it.
First of all, I want to talk a little bit about, I'm having this event, the Digital Age F&I Master Series Forum, and I'm bringing on an amazing amount of speakers. I mean, the best in the industry, including you, Gina. And I have Susan O'Rourke, and so they will be presenting from A to Z. And then, of course, Carrie Wise, she is absolutely terrific from AutoFi. And anyway, so one of the comments, and I've got groups all over the place. I've got them here on LinkedIn, probably not as many here on LinkedIn as I do on Facebook. I got a bazillion in Facebook. And so in my Facebook group, I had someone reach out to me and said, "Are you kidding me? I don't want, why in the world would you bring," and I'm not going to tell you which company because I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but it was a digital retailing provider, and they're like freaking out. "I don't want to do this stuff. You are taking away an F&I manager's role. You are trying to do away with us." And I'm like, "That's not true at all. That's not how I see it."
No.
How do you see it?
I think the F&I manager's there to to truly educate and to bring in more partners. I think, F&I is a third of a dealership's profits. That's not going to change. If anything, it increases during times when cars are a little more plentiful and there's not as much margin on the cars. But the F&I office is critical. That's not going to change. But the way the content is delivered is going to change. It can't just be there in the office. These are big financial decisions. I think we all forget, with the average person, I don't even know what the average household makes in the United States. Maybe it's about 65,000, 70,000 a year. So adding an F&I product onto their vehicle, a $3,000, a $4,000 package, that is a significant investment. And seriously, we're going to ask them to make that decision within a 30-minute time period. It's not like buying a car that they've been dreaming about. Nobody's dreaming about buying a vehicle service contract. So I believe that the approach should be, this is like insurance. This is a peace of mind product. In times of economic uncertainty, in times when you're not sure if you're going to have your job, you still need to be able to pay for your repair work. During inflationary times, I mean, I was looking at, the inflation has been 7.5%, 8% year over year. I was just looking at tires. Tires from January 21 to January 2022 are up 14% across the country. So if you're a consumer and you need new wheels on your car, new tires, or some work done, you had a 3% pay increase. Your tires are going to be 14% more expensive. This is the time that F&I products are desperately needed by consumers. The F&I office, the F&I manager should be at the front and center of being almost an evangelist about the importance of these products in a household's personal financial portfolio. It's as important as insurance. It's health insurance, car insurance, your home insurance, and you should have some warranties or F&I products to protect your next major asset.
Well, I will tell you this, Gina. You're talking to the tire and wheel queen, and and I have always have seen the benefit of a tire and wheel product. And so my question to you, I've run across, and we've got Christine Farnan who mentions, I agree totally with Gina. There you go. Yay. Um, but I ran into a conversation one time, and I'm not going to go ahead and mention names and stuff, but my whole thing, and understanding my background, look at who it is. Vince Bailey just got in. Good to see you. What is that?
Levelize.
Yes, of ownership. So the thing is should we as the dealership include training with our sales associates on product knowledge and the importance of endorsing those products?
Absolutely. I think the conversation about these products has to happen from the first moment somebody's considering buying the car. So the first moment they speak to the salesperson, when that salesperson is taking the potential car buyer around for a ride in the car, and you have that awkward chitty chat sometimes. Maybe that's just me when I'm in a car ride, but that's a good time to start talking about some of these products, especially the first time you're looking at the roads and seeing potholes. I mean, you're helping people. You're not selling. What you're doing is I always think successful salespeople are helping people buy. You're not selling to them. And so you're helping them buy and protect their investment. And it has to start, on the sales floor, and then they serve it up to the F&I office. And then the person's walking in knowledgeable and they can make a decision.
Okay. So here's I'm just throwing this out, and I'm just telling everyone, well, from my experience, and it may not be their experience, but it's been my experience working with some of the agents across the country and working with dealerships across the country. I bet, I don't know if it's as much as 50-50 anymore. Maybe it's 40-60. Maybe we touched on 10% more. that see the value in that.
Mhm.
But how many agents still today train? No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be training salespeople on product knowledge because they have enough to do with selling product knowledge on their vehicles. There is way too much for them to to know to with regard to selling a car, let alone product knowledge.
Mhm.
So stay off of that. And here's the other thing, and I hear it time and time again, Gina, because they'll give up the farm. So I say, okay, so when that customer may have that question, especially they've spent what, 3, 4 hours with that sales associate,
Mhm.
right? They
Yep.
they built a relationship, and when
Right.
they come back and they're like, well, the finance manager mentioned something about a vehicle service contract, or they mention this tire and wheel. What the heck is that? And they go back and they're going, well, I don't think you need it. You've got a 3-year 36 comprehensive coverage. Why
Yes.
would you need that anyway?
Mhm.
Because they don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And they're not going to mess up a deal. So
Mm,
there goes the endorsement out the freaking window. Does
yeah.
that make sense?
I get it. I get it. It sounds like that the dealer manager is not aligning incentives properly.
Well, here again. One of the things that we have in this whole thing that we do, whether, when we talk about digital retailing, we're talking about that online communication, engaging earlier with the customer, giving customers the idea to feel as if they're in control of the buying process,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Right. That's the whole idea. And they, to some degree, should have the ability to determine payment options in advance.
Yes.
Why not, based off of what, their credit criteria would be?
That's
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, buying a car always seems to so many people like it's just so challenging and overwhelming and scary because they feel pressured. People don't talk about purchasing a home in the same way. And a home's a bigger investment. And so it's something about empowering the consumer with knowledge and with information so they have more transparency, so they're prepared to make a decision so they're not pressured. And when I went to the University of Chicago and I studied behavioral economics, and when I look at how decisions are made, there is decision fatigue. It's real and it happens in dealerships. And it was funny. When I bought my last car, I called up my husband while I was in the F&I office, and I'm going, I can't believe it. I have decision fatigue. I can't take it anymore. It's just so many things to decide right there. And it's you want people to make informed decisions, and then they'll stick with it and they'll make better decisions.
So we have Mark here, and he is talking. Hey, Mark, good to see you. He's great. I certainly agree. I always like someone who says I agree. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I certainly agree, and I think I'm just kidding. I think it begins with identifying the dealer's profit centers.
Mhm.
Now, there are 12 profit centers in every deal. You won't hit on all 12, but you better hit on 7, or your dealer will be out of business.
Mhm. That makes sense.
There's a Jim question. Gina, do you see actively offering the dealer F&I products?
Good question. Not yet, but it's coming. And I know it's coming because of some of the discussions I've had. So maybe they are, and I'm not seeing it in a big way, but it's happening. It's coming because dealers make so much money off F&I products. The digital retailers are like, yeah, we need to make money. There's only so much cash we can burn on everybody's behalf before we start making real money on this. So uh, there are more and more discussions. Okay, to be completely transparent, when we sell an F&I product administrator, we contact all the big digital retailers. They take the books and they take a hard look. So that says something. There is coming.
So I want to be clear minded here. When you say that, the big companies, and when they're offering these DR provider, when they're offering customers the ability to determine financing options before they get into the dealership online, they're
Mhm.
also allowing customers with the flexibility to be able to determine some of the product offerings in advance. Do I have that right?
I am aware of one of the retailers that was testing it.
Hmm.
Generally, the thought has been by the digital retailers, we're still trying to figure out this digital retailing stuff before we make it more complicated. So I must say I'm not completely knowledgeable what's happening in the market today, but they have to be thinking about it. Their goal is to make money, and you make money in F&I products. So
All right,
they're
so we got Jim, and then I'm going to go back to you, Mark. Jim says, so if you use XYZ digital retailer, the dealer will get the software for free.
mm, let's see. I guess I don't think I understand the question.
Hey, Jim, did you hear that? We don't understand the question. I don't even understand the question, if that makes you feel any better. So if you use XYZ digital retailer, the dealer will get the software for free. So I think he's talking about if you're utilizing their products, then you get the digital retailer for free. Did I get that right,
So
Jim?
you get the software to present it to the consumer. So right now,
Yeah,
dealerships
that's what he's
are
saying.
not got it. If they sell F&I, yeah.
Yeah,
So right now,
I'm with him.
right,
His
okay.
quid pro quo. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, because right now dealerships, they don't have the capability to start marketing in advance through their websites. The websites aren't very sophisticated in most cases. And
There are more and more coming across the
yeah.
board, and they are offering customers not only with soft pull capability, but also hard pull, as well as obtaining financing completely online. And a
Mhm.
part of that is offering customers with the ability to take advantage of these products online. And I will tell you right now, with my other group in Facebook, they're freaking out. They are freaking out. It is so funny, Gina, because I'm on LinkedIn. I feel like I've got this split person, this like Hyde and whatever, like
Mhm.
Jekyll and Hyde. I'm like, it's like so different because I go on LinkedIn. It's like, oh, cool. Everything's great. I love this whole idea. You get over there on Facebook, they will eat you up alive. It's like, are you kidding me? Becky, you have lost your mind. There is no way in hell we're going to do this stuff. We do not buy into that. I do not like the idea of customers having that much information before. In fact, some of these guys are like, hell no. I want to get the customer into the dealership, come heck or high water. Too much information is not a good thing. And let's go back to that salesperson or the salesperson analogy. We don't need to be training salespeople on product knowledge. And that's where it's at.
Well, let me bring up a point here. So the aftermarket vehicle service contracts, as everybody knows, are sold in the aftermarket. Let's talk about CarShield. They are spending a lot of money on television commercials. Everybody knows CarShield. In fact, they are probably the best known brand in the F&I industry at the consumer level. People see those commercials. You see Ice-T, and they're like, Ice-T told me to buy a vehicle service contract. Whatever. 50% of people across the board do not buy a vehicle service contract in the dealership, yet they're buying them in the aftermarket. I know that marketers are marketing to consumers within the first year of their car ownership, and they're working to pick up everybody who didn't buy a vehicle service contract in the dealership. And I know that that upsets the dealers, but I kind of look at it like, well, why aren't you doing better? Why
Amen.
why aren't you following up with those customers and doing, continuing to give them information? They consume it's more expensive for a consumer to buy a vehicle service contract after the point of sale of the vehicle. But they're doing it. Well, Why are they doing it later instead of when they bought the car? It's not because the products are better. The products are the same. They're buying it because they have more information. They've had time to think about it. Ice-T told them so. But they've really been thinking about it and are making more of an informed decision. So if they didn't buy it at the dealership because they didn't have enough information to make an informed decision, the dealership can provide more information, capture more of that, and then it won't end up in the hands of a third-party marketer.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that, Gina, because I just recently had a conversation. Christine Farnan is also in here tonight, and so we had the conversation how important it is, and you already talked about this beforehand too, of getting back in front of that customer after the fact, after delivery. What are those touch points all about? Before, during, after? You and Stephen Apicella, I'm telling you right now, if he was on right now, he would be like, I love this woman. She is everything that I'm talking about. It's just not selling one car, it's reoccurring business all the time.
Absolutely.
Why do we always talk about, selling to one customer one time when we should be talking about just what you talked about, being in front of that customer before, during, and after. And go ahead.
Well, and not only that, but if you sell a vehicle service contract from your dealership after they purchase the car, remember that's bringing people back into fixed ops. And once again, missing out in the F&I office is not just missing out on buying that product, it's missing out on future service opportunities. And so getting, every time you get your dealership brand in front of a vehicle purchaser, it's a win. It's what dealerships spend, what, $600, $700 to sell a car just on marketing and advertising. Wouldn't it be better to get them in, use that $600, sell them F&I products, get them back into the service lane, have a good experience with the dealership, and be there for their next car, because you see when their vehicle service contract expires. So when you can call them back up and say, you bought a vehicle service contract, you should either buy another one or maybe you should just buy a new car. So I think there's a real opportunity that's kind of, I feel like of the 360 degrees there are in marketing right now, many dealerships just focus on the easy first 90 degrees. Get them in the F&I office and work it over there. But there's so many other opportunities.
Amen. So I will tell you, to some degree, I still have some old school in me. I'm not going to tell you that I don't. I do. There's, I always work a pay plan. I just don't get it. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, some dealers are a little bit, quick on the draw, but there's some other dealers that like, I don't care if you go ahead and sell an after sale service contract. I'm not going to, I'm going to let you go ahead and count that not as a deal. And that could add to your penetration and you get paid more. I'm like, why the hell wouldn't you do that? I don't get, because I don't know. It's just a different talent today. Maybe they just get paid. I don't know. I was always, my pay plan was always about more service contract penetration. And these dealers were like, how in the hell did you get that? I'm like, don't worry about that. I did. And I'd be down there to the service department and I'd be paying these guys like there was no tomorrow. And it was like, I did it. And but not everybody's like me. And to talk about where you were going with that whole thing, it's like it does take a little bit more energy to get back in front of that customer, right? After the fact. And some, simply, why not automate the process, right? So here's Mike Dobson. Do you know who Mike Dobson is?
The name's familiar, but I don't know if we've met before.
Well, Mike Dobson's great. He is the founder of Pro Karma. So I will tell you what he says. He says, I've always believed that an immense amount of money has been left on the table. Yay.
I see it.
And yeah, absolutely. They just don't revisit. Most are afraid of losing F&I income to digital solutions
Mhm.
I'm of the opinion that proper leveraging of digital and traditional solutions, and that's where I come in, will greatly enhance profitability, not dilute it.
Agree.
Long term digital connectivity with the dealership's customers pre and post sale creates new and reoccurring revenue streams. Technology is the most cost effective way to get multiple effects from existing customers.
I agree. I agree.
Lot there, Mike Dobson, but right on. That's for sure. So we have a couple more comments here that I'd like to share. Ladies, there was a time when some dealers would throw you out if you mentioned any F&I income products. Some of them now will tell you they invented it. Digital is around.
Okay, by the way, Ashley, I love hearing that. I can't tell you how many people I've met in the industry that have claimed to, created a product. I'm like, nah, who really did? Because I'll have the same three people, three people talking about the same product. Yeah, I created that. I'm like, okay, we'll just go with that.
Can I tell you how many times when I talk to some of these guys, they're like, I made menu.
Yeah.
I've already been doing menu. And I'm like, you have? How's that working for you?
Okay.
And I
As
went
a
to
complete
all
aside,
this pain. And I'm like, oh, you've already been doing it. Okay.
as a complete aside, I'm sure some of your callers will appreciate this. So I did spend a little time outside of investment banking. I was a CFO of an equipment finance company, Class 8 trucks.
Yeah.
So we financed trucks, Class 8 trucks in dealerships, and we created a menu. And it was a big deal then because nobody had menus. Okay, the menu was in Excel. And we set up an Excel form with cells locked that the dealer could put information in, and that was our menu. We were so proud of ourselves. That was
Oh,
a
I
while ago.
remember those days. We were filling those menus out by hand. And then it
Mhm.
became we were going to automate it. And then I had an F&I manager coming into the workshop and she's like, we've got this automated menu. The dealer thinks it's going to do everything on its own. I'm like, no, it'll help. Might
Yeah,
speed some stuff up rather than you handwriting, but you still have to understand the
yeah,
concept behind it, right? That,
you do.
why does it work? What's the benefit behind it? So I'm telling you right now, we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. We've got Mike Thompson here. The question is, why aren't we calling those same customers 60, 90 days later?
Because all the marketers out there are. I estimate that there are at least 100 independent marketing third-party call centers out there that are getting inbound calls, but they're sending out direct mail, etc. They're calling your customers 60, 90 days later. So you, the real dealer, should be too. Now,
Absolutely. So we have, let me just say, hey, Larry, Mr. Old School is there. There you go. I was just talking about you, see, a little while ago. Too bad you missed it. No, I'm just kidding. He's the one who says, get the customer in the dealership. No, I'm not going to start all that. I promise you, Larry. I'm just going to leave you alone. Here comes Paul. Paul, best idea, market to the customers after the sale.
yeah, that's right. They already loved you. They bought a vehicle. So they're going to love you some more if you sell them more products. That's the time when you still it's kind of like a new relationship or a new marriage. Like everything's awesome in the first 6 months.
So
So,
when do you recommend that an F&I person gets back in front of that customer after delivery? When does it really make sense?
I personally would do it within a couple of weeks and do a check-in call, or email to say, hey, or text, hope the car's working out great for you. By the way, you didn't buy a tire and wheel contract. And, we talked about it and you probably weren't ready to make a decision. We should revisit. We should revisit that vehicle service contract and here are the benefits or something. Obviously, I'm not a marketing person, but something very exact and to the point to plant that idea. In the aftermarket, we see that customers have to be touched with a piece of direct mail 3 to 8 times before they respond.
Hmm.
But that's from an unknown company. Now you already know them. So I would call it you've already checked off 1 or 2 times in talking to that customer. So that third or fourth time, that might be all it takes to land that vehicle service contract. They already know you in the dealership and they bought a major asset from you, one of the most expensive things they will ever buy. So they trust you.
I feel like you have a good relationship, and knowing that, by the way, I can see it's information overload right now. So let's do this. And a lot of times it really is, like you said,
It is.
it's like I'm freaking out right now. I'm trying to make a decision. I don't like the idea, feeling pressured to make that decision. So
Right.
I'm just going to go ahead and do a knee jerk reaction and say, no, I'm
Yeah.
not buying.
Oh my God, I just spent $38,000. You want me to spend $3,000 more? Please. I can't take it.
I can't do it. And I talk about that a lot. So many times, and let's face it, it happens so much. When that customer leaves out of the dealership, F&I forgets about the customer.
Sure.
They just do. And
They've been.
meanwhile, it becomes a public record.
Mhm.
And you're right, that third party provider is sitting back. I mean, they have big business. This is not a small business. They have some big business going after. So let's just say it's 60% maybe customer this dealership has a 60% penetration on service contract. Got 40% of that business going out to a third party provider that's more than happy to go ahead and grab it.
That's right. That's right. We
Right.
estimate that there are over 400,000 vehicle service contracts acquired in the aftermarket each year. And I think that's my data might be a little bit old. We're trying to figure out really what happened in 20 and 21. That number might be even higher. It's 400,000 vehicle service contracts in the aftermarket at $3,000 a pop. That's big business.
That is. So here's the thing. Several years ago, now I believe like there are other providers out there, like a Mike Dobson, for an example, or Stephen Apicella, they have they have pretty much automated the entire process.
Hmm.
That really kind of leaves out, to some degree, not to all degree, but when you have the ability to revisit these products in front of a customer where it's almost automated and we're not having to rely on that F&I person or the service writer or
Right.
someone else in the dealership.
Hmm.
Does that make better sense than trying to rely on someone else in the dealership to present this after sale opportunity?
The challenge. So in the aftermarket, uh, few companies do digital sales of vehicle service contracts. Number one reason is adverse selection. You don't want people to go looking for a VSC when they already have a problem with their car. But number two, these are complicated financial products, and people have questions, and it's it's better handled over the phone. I mean, you start looking at it, it talks about mechanical problems with your car, and if most car buyers are like me, more like me than others, and they're like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, what I don't know what's going to go wrong with my car. How realistic is this? And I think that personal touch, having that conversation, is very important.
So going back to what we talked about, started talking about in the beginning with these mergers and acquisitions. How do you see all that panning out? Really, are they all about, like, for an example, I think you talked about in your article, which was a great
Mhm.
article. I mean,
Thank you.
fantastic article, actually. Got to put my glasses on so I can see. Um, but you were saying 2021 was a big year for F&I agencies, mergers and acquisition. Brown and Brown, National Auto Care were the highest frequency acquirers, having completed numerous deals based on current trends. 2022 will likely be even a hotter M&A market than 2021. Do you think those guys are doing anything about these aftermarket sales?
I think they are those two groups, they're very much aware of them. I'm not sure. I think National Auto Care is probably more in tune to the fact that there are aftermarket sales and that something can be done. So to be honest with you, I don't know how they're addressing it. But Brown and Brown National Auto Care, no. I do know there are some administrators that have their own units in-house that work to remarket vehicle service contracts. And then there's a company out there called Automotive Product Consultants that will partner up with administrators and dealers to help remarket on the dealer's behalf and staff a call center uh, acting as the dealer. So the dealer signs off on the creatives and the
Mhm.
use of their name. There's an individualized phone number, and that phone call comes back in to Automotive Product Consultants. Sorry, National Vehicle Protection Services is a second group that does this. And they answer the call on behalf of the dealership. So they're very clear that they're working with the dealership. And then they'll sell the vehicle service contract, and the dealer gets the credit for the VSC sale. And they take basically a commission on
Mhm.
that sale. So, but Brown and Brown National Auto Care, they're aware of it, and I'm sure they have strategies involved, but they have not acquired any direct marketers.
So the only reason why I say this is because, for years, you can hit your head up against the wall and expect change to happen, and it just doesn't happen. And I believe in automating the process. And I know I'm going to get some F&I people, Becky, that's my money. What are you talking about? This is my opportunity. What are you doing? Okay. Well, I understand that and I definitely agree, but you're not doing anything with it. So it's like,
Mhm.
I'm over it. It's like, how many times do we talk about this? How many conversations do we have about an after sale opportunity or the third touch point, and you do nothing about it?
Right. That's right.
So I don't know why we keep talking about the same old thing all the time. And this is 20 years in the making. This isn't something, I mean, we've been talking about this stuff and it just goes to deaf ears. So I'm like, why do we do it? Why not automate this? So 3 years ago, I went ahead and met up with an individual um, who had a technology company where actually it was it was cool.
Mhm.
Now you've got apps now that streamline this
Mhm.
process, makes it even that much easier. But internally, if you want to put in internal process in place, this just allows the dealer to offer that customer who did not take advantage of a product or whatever a link back to their website. And
Ah.
it's like a shopping cart
Mhm.
where they have the ability to review it, research it, look at it, understand the product and what it offers, and buy it right then and there.
That's great.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is far better than what we're doing right now. We
Mhm.
have got to figure out a better way to streamline this process so that, I mean, so it's being done in the background, I
Yeah.
think. And here comes Mike Dobson, and he says, okay, the dealership needs to be connected with their customers with connectivity that the customer wants to communicate with. The tech solutions are here. Two-way video.
Mhm.
That's kind of cool. Relevant presentations based on where the customer is versus manufacturer's warranty.
Mhm.
Much better solutions are available than relying on this analog processes that are great unless turnover depletes the process. And he's right about that. Turnover is another topic that, again, once maybe you're lucky enough to put a process in place, and then you have people that are no longer with the company, then you have no process.
That's right. That's right. And I think Mike's right. I mean, having the creatives, the informed content that anyone can come in, and not anyone, but that is there so someone else can present and teach. I mean, What happens when the F&I manager goes on vacation? Do sales stop for 2 weeks? Well, some dealerships, it gets a little tough to get some of those sales completed. They're a critical part of the dealership, and creating systems and processes that transcend the person and is more enterprise specific will benefit all of these companies. And I agree, Mike, the technology is there. It's all about implementing it and putting it together in a way that consumers will use it. And I know some dealerships have, many dealerships have vanity apps. Some dealerships have apps that are really getting quite useful, and some administrators do. If you have an app that you can schedule the maintenance, have all of your contracts, your service contracts on that app. Ooh, can you find out about recalls through that app? Will the app remind you when you need to have maintenance on your car? All of those things. Will the app remind you when your contract is about to expire and you need to buy a new one? And creating that link with the customer. I'm going to tick off some people here, but like I've had the Mercedes app on 2 different phones and 3 different cars. I've never gotten it to work. I don't know why it's so complicated, and I'm not a Luddite. I understand how technology
No,
works.
you're not.
But it's kind of crazy that, I want to use, but I don't want to spend 2 hours trying to figure it out. So I think, the technology should be there and people do want to use it. Not everybody, but people do want to use it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things is it seems to me that, car buyers go from age 16 to 90 something. And so the way that they receive communication, the way that they learn, the way that they make decisions is different for every person at every different touch point. I think F&I managers have a very tough job trying to communicate with all those different constituencies in a way that sticks.
Well, and yes, so this is the other reason why it's so important that we have training that's relevant. What's going on in this industry today?
Hmm.
What happened or what worked before, just it doesn't. I mean,
Right.
take some of the new, take some of the old, but you got to put it together, right, to make sense
Mhm.
out of it,
Right.
right? And I think that sometimes is missing
Mhm.
in what we're trying to, let's face it, car dealers are slow to change.
Mhm.
Some don't want to change because why change? Because I'm really profitable, Beck. I'm really doing awesome. Why in the world why do I need to change? I'm doing really good. I'm doing better than I've ever done before, ever on
Right.
ever. But again, I get that, but things always change. So
Mhm.
I will share this with you quickly. I am in a dealership back in my Memphis, Tennessee days, and I loved Memphis. It was always
Great
that
city.
I mean, it's awesome time, right? And those guys are great, but but here I am. I am at probably one of the biggest Ford stores, and I'm not going to mention names either. I'm going to try not to. And here's the thing: they were selling so many cars at the time, but yet there's 100 customers who paid cash that no one talked to. And I'm like, why would you not talk to these customers?
Right.
Why? Who has time? They're
Mhm.
paying cash anyway. We'll just talk to our finance customers. And I'm like, it's not like you're doing all that great with them either, but I'm just saying. I
Mm.
mean, every customer, 100%, 100% of the time, all the time, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
so it's like, I think that's kind of the mindset sometimes. It's like we're
Mhm.
doing amazing well. Why bother with the little stuff? But I think too, when I hear you talking about this, I think it's important that dealers understand if you are asking customers to buy a maintenance program, the reason why is because you want them back in service.
That's right.
It wouldn't be any different, right? In customers purchasing and taking advantage of some of these other products. The whole idea is to do what?
Right.
Get the
Get
customer
back
coming
in.
back to the dealership, not to somebody else's freaking dealership.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the name of the game. And that's how, I think that, when we talk about maybe a dealer needs to put on some sort of I know you hate the word spiff, but why not?
Well, I was familiar with a dealership group that basically gave, a year or two of prepaid maintenance away
There's a
to.
bunch that do.
Yeah, and I think that that's brilliant because it gets people coming back into the dealership, and it's a good time to, well, there's so many things you can do when they come back into the dealership, plus having the warm and fuzzies and being comfortable in the dealership. There's also a level of comfort. I mean, I grew up thinking, but probably still think, you walk into the dealership and they're going to try to charge you with everything they possibly can and take advantage of you. So if you really just need to get your oil changed, just go down the street to Jiffy Lube, because otherwise you're going to be paying through your nose. Sometimes dealers don't help themselves. Once again, I took a car in for my 10,000 mile maintenance, and I put like no miles on my car ever, a couple thousand miles every year. And I got a list of all kinds of crazy things that need to be done to my car. And I had to work through it and say, no, 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 no. And there's this intimidation factor that sometimes dealers are still capitalizing on. And so if you do things like offer prepaid maintenance to get the person back in the dealership, you start with more warm and fuzzies. That dealership ticked me off. And the next two Mercedes I bought were from a dealership that was further away, but I was so annoyed with my local dealership, I wouldn't do it anymore.
Well, that's why I feel like, again, going back, we have to have, excuse me, training that matters today. And,
Mhm.
the old school thinking and let's protect, you know, um, our the way that we've always done business. Maybe, we have to like rethink all that and,
Mhm.
listen to the way of the customer. And I think that's kind of where that's whole thing's going. It's not a matter of if a customer wants to shop online, so be it. Okay. Let them freaking shop online, for crying out loud. You're not going to control it. You can't really control it anymore because you've got competitors that are more than willing to allow customers to do fact finding, to be able
Mhm.
to shop the way that they want to shop when it
Mhm.
comes to buying a car.
That's
So if
right.
that's how they want to buy, let them buy however which way they want to buy. And then of course, if that customer, and this is where again, it's really important to make sure that we have these products in front of that customer sooner, in my opinion, than later, because then they can make an informed decision as to whether or not they should be taking advantage of those products. And maybe they make a decision at that point online. But once they come into the dealership and they might say, I just want a service contract, or I might just want maintenance. But here's where, again, the F&I person is doing their job to be able to upsell the additional products
That's right.
and present the value proposition that goes along with it.
That's right.
And that's just it. And or if the customer decides, hey, I'm not going to buy these products at this given time, they need to know in their head that sooner or later somebody else is going to present them the opportunity to take advantage of that service contract. It needs to be me.
That's right. That's right.
And do I have one more? Oh, there's Katie. Katie, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So, what I'm hearing the most on here is the lack of ability to sell products or accountability with the finance team. Business managers need to be held accountable to utilize their training and processes that's set in place.
Great point. That is a great point.
And that's Katie for you. I love Katie. She can always sum it up. And so, um, yeah, so we're done. We've got 4 minutes to, we went 4 minutes out. So I want to thank you again, Gina, for being here on Live Talk with Becky Chernek. And
Thank you for having
again,
me.
I am so grateful that you'll be able to present at the Digital Age F&I Master Series um, Forum. So anyway, again, great night.
Thank
And I
you.
am so happy again that you were able to um, be a part of this. Wait a minute. Ashley is saying accountability is where the independent shines.
Oh, I agree. Because
Right
you know what
there.
matters to everybody's pocketbook a whole lot more. You can't hide behind somebody else.
And I think that that's kind of where, where it is. And I think you made some great points tonight. And it was a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, I love
So
being here. Thank you so much.
thank you. It was a
All right.
pleasure.
Take
Thanks,
care.
guys.